Hello there, Ray here, and I'm joined by Cheater Codes.
Hello.
And today guys, we're going to be showing you a updated version of our automatic infinite railway flying machine. Our old design here, which was designed by ZeroX, Pingu, and myself, was really nice in versions like 1.12, but now in newer versions they changed the way that cobblestone is actually generated and the way that water flows as well. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and redesigned a flying machine that could do the exact same thing, but can actually do it better and more compact, and overall just an amazing flying machine. So let's go ahead and give this thing a try so you guys can see this thing working. So Cheater Codes is going to be operating it. He's going to have a bucket of lava in his main hand. He's going to have some rails and offhand to start. But as the machine moves, he's actually going to be given infinite amounts of rails from a automatic rail duper, which is implemented into the flying machine. So he places in the lava, it creates some cobblestone, then he places in a rail. This can all be done AFK, and he's not actually doing any like manual clicking, he's just having buttons held down, and we'll show you even ways to have buttons held down on your keyboard or your mouse without you having to actually be there. So you can see the machine is moving forward each time. This thing is on an entire flying machine, it keeps moving forward. Notice how the rails that are left behind are also powered, and they will stay powered as well. You don't need to have any levers or redstone sources actually powering these things. The water as well as the lava needed to make the cobble generator are being moved along with the flying machine. And we also have a rail duper and a way to power the rails. The entire machine is quite small and fairly simple. It consists of a couple different little devices all put in together to make it work. You can also see how fast it is, and this is very useful if you want to make long railway systems, especially if you have an area that's pre-cleared, like here above the world. We don't really have to worry about running into anything, so we can keep running this machine for an infinite amount of distance. You can also use this in the end dimension, where you can have water as well, and use that to make some really long rail systems in your end dimension. If you guys are just looking to make a cobble flying machine without actually having the rails, we have a much simpler design, which I'll link down below. So the main device of this machine is a flying cobblestone generator. So in our old design, we used to have the water like this and the lava kind of like this, and it would flow downwards here, and it would actually end up making the cobblestone over here. Now they changed it so the cobblestone's over there, so we kind of had to redesign it. The way this is done is we have a water source which is completely enclosed over here in this stair. In order to get the cobblestone, we need the lava to flow to the water. So we're going to put a lava source right here, and then it's going to flow the only direction it can flow, which is this direction. Once the lava source is in this area, it's going to come in contact with this water, even though it don't appear like the water is actually here because of this block. This is a waterlogged block, and even touching the side of it will create cobblestone.
Yeah, so the nice thing about this design is that there's no flickering trapdoors or anything, so basically just the cobblestone generating itself does not cause any updates, so we still would have the lava here. And then once you place the rail, the machine moves the player forward first, and then he can pick up the lava. So if you just place down the rail, you'll see that the machine moves forward. So the way you do that is you align your views so that you only hit the trapdoor below the lava source, so it places the lava source. If you have the correct view, you also then look at the top of the cobblestone, so you can place the rail with your offhand. And then once you move, only then you can hit the lava with your empty bucket that you're holding in the hand to pick it up again.
So let's go ahead and show you the perspective of what it looks like if you stand here. We remove the minecart so that we can allow you to see over here where there's kind of the important part. With the minecart here, you're not really able to see what's going on. So let's go ahead and start out. So what you do is have your offhand full of powered rails and your main hand with a lava bucket, and then you just hold down right click button. With the lava in your main hand, it will try to use your main hand option first, and only when that is preoccupied or unable to be used will it use the offhand. So if I hold my right click right now, it's going to put lava there. Notice how it makes cobble, and then as soon as the cobble is there, my empty bucket is something I can't use on the cobble, so it decides to use the rails which are in the offhand. This is very useful because the cobble is immediately generated right in front of the player's face, so he doesn't have to use any trapdoors to put the rails on top of the cobble. Everything is directly lined up, and of course once the player moves forward, then he will pick up the lava because he's holding right click his main hand, and I'll use that option. And then when he comes in contact with another block, like the trapdoor which I'm aiming at, you'll be able to place the lava back down again. So that way we can actually move the lava along with the fly machine, because currently there's no way to like lava log blocks and move them. So we need to have a player there holding right click with a bucket to move the lava. Now the trapdoor is also useful because it allows us to aim and place the lava onto a block, but unable to actually pick it back up again. So notice how I'm aiming at a piece of the trapdoor which doesn't show the lava in front of me once I place it. So I'm able to place lava essentially above the trapdoor, but once the lava is there, it's no longer in view of my player until I move forward again. So you could run this without a minecart, but on servers, there is a lot of confusion between server side and client side. So the server might actually not really understand the correct position of where the player is at, and you could clip inside of blocks more easily. So to avoid that, we have the player actually riding in a minecart, which is kept track of by the server much better than actual players. And this means when the flying machine actually moves and pushes this minecart entity, the game will actually move it correctly along with the flying machine. But this does mean that you have the minecart kind of in your face, so it's kind of hard to see that trap door. If you press F3, you can kind of look at over here on the side where it has target block. You can see which block your little cursor is pointing at. And currently we're looking at trapdoors, so that is good. So now all we have to do is hold down right click. And now the machine will just start working as long as you have right click button held down. Now there are ways to automatically hold down your right click button. You can rebind your mouse keys to your keyboard. So your right click button could be a key. You could put a weight on it if you wanted to. But there's also ways to have your right click button held down and leave your Minecraft window. So there's a trick you could do with F3 plus T. So if you hold down right click and then you press F3 plus T and then you release the right click button, after that's done, your player will automatically hold down whatever button you had. So right now I'm actually not holding any buttons on my keyboard or mouse, and the player is able to continue to right click. I can even leave the window. So now I'm actually on a different window and my player is continuing to do this. And then when you want to stop it, you can just right click and you can go on your way. So that is how the cobblestone part works, the machine. We also have infinite amounts of rails because onto this machine we also have a rail duper that is hidden right underneath of this minecart. It consists of a coral fan and some rails in front of it. And I've showed this design in the past. If you're curious about other designs with rail dupers or carpet dupers, I'll link that video down below as well. But in this design, we actually have a double rail duper, meaning that both these rails in front, when the machine moves forward, will duplicate. So we'll actually get two rails instead of one. So if I go ahead and just update this, you can see two rails fell off. Now, even though every time the player moves forward, he uses only one rail, we decided to come in and put in two rails. That way, if one rail would happen to duplicate and kind of pop off to the side and fall down to the ground, the player would still be able to continue moving forward because it's always producing extra rails, which he can use in the future in case one is missed. This is something we changed from the previous design where we tried to kind of encase the entire system so that the rails wouldn't fall off. It's much easier just to duplicate twice as many blocks than try to prevent the items from falling off the edge. This also allowed us to keep the size down to be quite small.
That being said, I don't think we've had it fail a single time with the first rail.
That's true.
Because the player is technically standing inside the block the rail is being duped in.
So our old design, we moved the water by freezing it with frostwalking boots applied to armor stand. A little cool trick that I showed you guys quite a while ago. But with the new water logging mechanics added in 13 and above, we no longer have to depend on that to move water. So the way that we do it now is we actually waterlog a block, and I showed a really cool way to move waterlog blocks without making them lose their water in them. This is by giving them a short update. So this observer powered this just for a brief moment, which allowed this piston to push the block in front while also retracting. But in Java, if you do this, then the piston will not bring the block back again. This is known as like one ticking the piston, which refers to one redstone tick, which is equivalent to 2 game ticks. Now this only works with sticky pistons, and it only works with pushing it forward. It won't work if you try to pull it back. You'll lose the water. And we have this system implemented into our flying machine, which we have a sticky piston, which is pushing a block in front that has to be the water source. It can't be any block other than the one directly in front of the piston. And we also have some extra blocks to keep the water from flowing away, which is pretty easy to do with a stair and another block in front. So the main brains of the machine start here with this observer. It detects when the rail is placed in, and that's how it knows when to move everything forward. So this observer will be pulling this sticky piston, so everything's going to move forward with that. Then we have 2 pistons on either side, which are going to push these 2 arms, so this arm as well as this arm. What this arm over here does is it will pull this piston forward, and once this one moves forward, he will be activated to pull this segment here. This is a segment that the player is riding as well as the rail duper. That way the players move forward so he can pick up the lava as well as the rail duping so he gets extra rails. Now if we follow the other arm, it does a very similar thing. It also moves forward, pulling this sticky piston, which will then pull this segment here. When this piece moves forward, this piston will be activated by this observer, and this is going to push our water source forward. It's also connected down here to this iron trapdoor and this piece here. This is just to encase the lava so it doesn't flow any other direction besides this way, where it will immediately form cobblestone, and then it'll keep the lava enclosed so it doesn't create a mess. And that's really nice because you don't have to have like messy water flowing downwards or messy lava flowing downwards.
This also provides the delay that's necessary because the player needs to first pick up the lava before the water gets moved next to it, because otherwise you'll get obsidian.
So if you have problems with networking, it's possible for your lava to think it got waterlogged before the player picks it up. If that's the case, you can add one more delay onto this side. That way you make sure the player comes in first, picks up the lava, and then the water is moved forward. So the last system that we have not talked about yet is the system which keeps the rails powered. The way this is done is actually butting the rails. And this is by powering them and then moving the source along. So let's go down here. I'll show you a small example of it. What happens when you power a rail is it can go up to 8 blocks away from where you put the power source in. So notice how all these rails are powered. But if you go too far away and you put a power source here, notice how it doesn't power these rails way over here. But what you can do is you can kind of overlap the powering of each power source. Let's say we go ahead and we unpower this. Notice how the last one when we powered it, the farthest it made it was right here. But if we go ahead and unpower that and power this one, now we are one more block further. We're over here. And if we go ahead and power the first one again and unpower this one, notice how the rails haven't got any shorter. The power source is still here. This power rail is currently butted. It thinks it was powered from before and it hasn't been updated since, so it doesn't know any better to be unpowered. So if you would put a block beside this, it would then check to see if it should be powered, and if it isn't, like in this case, then it'll depower. So it just depowered. So when you start out your fly machine, the end of it is not going to be powered. So what you want to do is just go ahead and put in a lever and power that. Now from now on, the system will automatically keep it constantly powered. And this is done by using 2 redstone blocks which alternate. First one will move forward, powering the next rail. Then this one will move forward, leaving the other rails behind, but they still think they're powered because the first redstone block is powering them. And as long as you do these near each other and don't update the farther ones, it will constantly keep these rails powered. So keep this in mind when you use this machine to put a lever on both ends, and try not to put blocks or update the rails in the center. So Cheater Codes is going to go ahead and start up the machine. We can watch how the redstone blocks alternate so that they're always powering it. Notice how they don't both move at the same time, because when redstone blocks are moving at the same time, they actually don't create any power source. So we need to alternate them. And overall, it fit very well into the entire design, as those were like the only 2 spots that were left in order to place in extra blocks. Everything else is pretty much being used for a specific reason. It also came out to be a very compact as well as symmetrical design, which looks really nice when you fly it. Now we did build the whole thing out of honey blocks just because we did design this in 1.15, but you can actually build this out of slime blocks as well. It shouldn't affect it. And honey blocks do act a little bit differently than slime, so in this circumstance here we had to actually leave a slime block rather than a honey block, just because slime blocks are not full blocks and observers pointing into them would not put power into that block. We also came in here and put in a couple of slabs on top. This slab is actually important because the player can kind of think that he is clipped into this block here, even though he's not, and he can end up placing a rail in there, which will sometimes try to connect to other rails. Cheater Codes also test this in each direction, so it's not directional. You can run this whatever direction you want to. Now, if you're afraid of lightning updates, there's only a couple places which lightning could try to occur, which is on top of this block here. But this block is a honey block, and And lightning can only be placed on blocks that are actually have a full surface. So lightning can't be placed here, or fire can't be placed here, and that way it can't update this block. These observers are all protected from lightning updates as well, so you should be safe from that. The only thing you have to worry about is phantoms. So to prevent phantoms, you'll just need to put in a block here, as well as some block that blocks the skylight from the player. So a slab, a block, or any other block will protect the player. So now if cheat codes goes ahead, notice how there's always a solid block above his head. There's either this block here or the piston, which when it's not extended does not allow light to go through it. So this is an easy way you can prevent phantoms from spawning on flying machines. And a lot of times I often forget to put this type of protection into my flying machines because I'm not used to playing in versions higher than 1.12. But anytime you see something like that, just putting a block above the player's head will prevent phantoms from spawning altogether. So you can actually run this in the overworld for an infinite amount of distance, especially if you build this up high enough so you don't have to worry about running into savanna mountains. Now when you go to stop it, you actually want everything to be placed in like normal and then remove the lava later on. So notice I place lava, then I remove it, and now the machine is proper. Otherwise, if you try to remove the lava earlier, then it'll actually create obsidian here. Now when it comes to exiting this, the game sometimes will try to put you through the floor of this minecart here and then you'll fall downwards. So you might want to have a lighter on and just be prepared that you might fall through this. So let's go ahead and hit shift. Notice how it fell through. Sometimes you don't fall through. It can be a little bit odd. Overall, a very amazing machine for what it can do for such a compact size. Big thanks for Cheater Codes for helping me update this machine, as well as a bunch of other viewers and members of ProtoTech who hopped on our snapshot stream and helped design this. If you guys would like to participate in building new machines as well as updating old machines, make sure you guys join our snapshot streams. They are quite fun, and you guys will get notifications of those if you guys follow me on my social media. And if you guys would like to take a look at this machine in more detail, we will provide the world download down below. And if you guys are interested in other similar fly machines, I'll link a bunch of them down below. And remember guys to like the video as well as share it with other Minecrafters so they can learn about cool things you can do with a fly machine. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.